All right, so the recording has begun. Good morning, everyone. I think we are all ladies here so far. Yes. Good morning, ladies who run the world. So we are here for our second session for this week, this session looks at the whole matter of enhancing feedback using voice and video comments, the features in Moodle. Now, just a little bit of context. We upgraded to Moodle last academic year, and so we are operating on the new platform. And that platform has a number of features, two of which happen to be the voice recording feature and the video recording feature. So we're going to be taking a look at those, looking at how we can use them to enhance feedback, and also how we can actually use it to reach our students. My name is Michelle Stewart-McKoy. I am the faculty educational developer in the Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning. And we are joined today by Miss Natasha Barkley, who is she is the administrative support in the office. Miss Barkley, would you like to open your mic and just say a few words, please?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. I'm delighted to share this space with you. Knowledge is power, knowledge is key, and this is an opportunity for you to learn something new to enhance your teaching abilities. Have a good session. I'm here if you need me. If you have any questions, feel free to put it in the chat and I'll do my best to answer, as well as to share the various links and documents needed. All right.
Thank you very much, Ms. Barkley. Thank you ever so much. And you may have realized that the video that she played when we were starting, it's one that is very appropriate. As facilitators, we tend to feel as if it's a little bit too much, but as the different speakers are telling us, we need to push through the pain because the glory awaits us on the other side, the recognition, the accolades, and so forth. And so we try, we push, we innovate, and using video and voice notes is one way that we can innovate our teaching and learning or engagements with users of the virtual learning environment. So I'm going to share my screen and begin the presentation. Again, for those of you who have been here before, I'm using two monitors. So when I turn away, I am simply looking on the second monitor. All right, you should be seeing my screen now. Please let me know if that is so. Okay, great. And Miss Barkley will be following up with chat. So if you have any comments or anything that you need to query or clarify, you can post to the chat or you can open your mic. Okay, the group is small, so we can have a discussion, if you will. So we are looking at enhancing feedback with video and voice comments in Moodle. And as I said, when we just started, Moodle, the upgraded Moodle, has that kind of facility, which we'll be exploring in a few. But let us go into the basics first. All right. So for this particular session, we're going to be looking at Moodle's built-in audio and video recording tools. We're going to look at strategies which we can use to give effective verbal feedback, meaning voice or video feedback. And then we're going to look at how we can integrate audio and video feedback across different activities in the Moodle platform. And I probably should extend this a little bit because even though we're focusing on feedback, I want us to note that we can use the video and the audio, the video and voice elements for more than just feedback. So we'll be taking a look at that. Now, we know that the whole idea of audio and video is critical, especially, feedback is critical in education. If we can leverage the whole audio and video feedback, we can create a more dynamic, a more engaging and effective feedback process that enhances the overall learning experience for our students. So when we think about the importance of audio and video feedback, we're talking about things like enhanced personalization. What does that mean? Well, it means that as facilitators, when we give this kind of feedback, we can convey tone and emotion, we can show excitement, we can show um, uh, emphasis and so forth. So both the video and the voice recording feedback allows us to communicate the kind of nuances that we wouldn't get captured in something that is written. We get to build stronger connections with our students. So hearing our voices or seeing our faces is something that's personal for the students. And sometimes you look at somebody and you see that kind of tick, you see the body language, so that kinds of help. And then of course you can tailor explanation. So when you talk about personalization, you can tailor. As facilitators, we can tailor the different explanations that we have based on where our students are. So we meet them where they are. Improve clarity and comprehension. So certain complex concepts that we may have, we can explain them verbally. So it might be easier to explain them, give an example or so, than if we were writing them. And then we can have visual demonstrations. So even though the recordings is something like this, which it's just face front, I can't spin the camera so that I can screenshot. If I needed to explain something, I could let me just show you. I could say, and so this is blue, azul, and this is rojo, red. And so you could simply do something like that to give that kind of visual demonstration when you're doing your video. So just telling them, you're also showing them. And then of course the tone of your voice, your facial expressions, any kind of visual aids that you have, it sort of help to convey the meaning that you want to bring across a little more clearly, okay, more accurately. Increased efficiency. So when we do voice and video feedback, it takes less time, because speaking is often faster than typing, well, for most of us, and definitely faster than writing if we were writing on physical papers. And so it allows us to give a little more detailed feedback in the same amount of time as it's as when we're talking to the students. So, and it's usually easier to explain. So things that are hard or complicated, multifaceted, it makes it a little bit easier to explain it when we are doing so verbally. Enhance accessibility has to do with reaching diverse learners. So we know that not everybody in the class is a reader, but one of the things that we can do is that if we have students who may have issues, visual issues, visual impairment and so forth, using the audio would be helpful. If we have students um, who need to, what we call them, audio or audio learners, or students who tend to listen to podcasts and so forth, you find that using audio or video, I switch between audio and voice, but I'm referring to the same thing, tend to be useful. So we can reach different learning styles that students have. And then of course, if we think about increasing students' engagement, I keep looking at the second monitor if you see me looking over there to get the big point. When we talk about increased student engagement, we find that using this format is a little more engagement, and we're engaging, and we're not the only ones who should be using it. We should also encourage our students, because there are activities that we can set up in a VLE, and the students can actually use the voice and video to respond. All right, so this is something that we need to look at when we go over. And then of this, of course, engages our students more, so they wouldn't be spending the time doing as much typing when they can simply leave a voice note. It is something that's a little different from the traditional feedback that we're accustomed to, but as we said yesterday in the session on badge-based feedback, it is a direction that the university should be looking at, given the profile of our learners who are coming in. And it back to back to the importance of audio video. It humanizes online learning. So one of the things that students and even facilitators tend to complain about is that there is that absence of the facilitator because you're physically distanced. It feels as if you're not in the course, and then when you do go in, it's a text-based kind of instruction or information that's given. When you have this opportunity where you can actually leave a voice recording or leave a video message, it then adds, it puts you in the course in a very tangible way. So it humanizes the online space for students. So I'm at skill development. What skills can be improved here? Listening skills for students. For those of us who teach oral communication or foreign language, the listening skill is sharpened. The speaking skill is also sharpened. There is the development of digital literacy, where the students get to use different forms of digital communication to prepare their responses. And this is something that operates in the real world, in the modern world. And so students get that kind of sharpening of the skills. When we talk about emotional support here, we're talking about, you know, the way we use our voice, the way we use our facial expression. It shows that you understand what the student is going through. You see, you feel the excitement that the student felt in, so, you know, the disappointment. You have a chance to convey empathy and share excitement and so forth. And then, of course, when you say something that's encouraging, it has a stronger impact than when you write it, even with an exclamation sign. And so these are some of the things that speak to the whole emotional support. And then when we talk about things like flexibility and convenience, the students can access this on their phones, and they don't have to worry about downloading it so that they can print it. They can just simply press play if they have the Moodle app, so that they can go in and they can play it over and over and over. They can close their eyes if they're doing something else and just listen to it, if it's an audio or voice recording. And I think I hinted at this before. When we use this form of feedback, it is reflecting to a large extent the preparation for real world communication in the real world. In some offices, in some workplaces and professional settings, verbal feedback is an inherent part of that kind of engagement and context. And so we ensure that we start preparing our students, or we are better preparing our students for that kind of context that they will go in. And finally, under the importance of audio and video feedback, we can look at what we call enhanced record keeping. So one of the things that the facilitator can do is that the facilitator can actually download the recordings, and so you can archive these that you can have as evidence of assessment, you know, things that speak to quality assurance and so forth. So these are some of the significance of using audio and video feedback in our teaching and learning context. Now, when we are going to, any questions, any queries, any comments at this point before I move in? We're good?
We're good.
All
Yes,
right, great. Now, there are some strategies and best practices that you will find when people talk about giving effective verbal, what meaning voice or video feedback. And one of the first one is preparation. And how do we do that? Well, we ensure that we review as much as possible before we begin with our feedback. So we familiarize ourselves with the students' work so that we know what it is that we're going to say before we start. We jot down the main points that we want to, you know, to convey to the students, and then we choose an appropriate environment. So we can't do this in a classroom after we finish class and the students are in there still talking and so forth, because the noise is going to bother you. Certainly don't do this in the bathroom, because the bathroom will always have that kind of echo. So you want to think about things like the acoustics. If you have a large building with very few furniture, that is not an appropriate environment. Try to have somewhere that have uh, furniture in there, or if you're doing this at home and you're in a large room, you can get a couple pillows and stuff and throw in there so that the noise bounces, doesn't bounce, but rather is absorbed as much as possible. So if you have pillows, if you have cushions, you can put those in your room, or in your study, and it will absorb as much of that kind of distracting noise as much as possible. So that's you starting to prepare yourself to give this voice or video feedback. And then the next thing you're going to do is structure the feedback. So always start positive, start with a greeting, start with an overall comment, and make sure that when you do this, your smile is picked up, whether it's a video or an audio. You know that people can hear your smile when you're smiling. So ensure that you're not, you don't have this frown on your face when you're bringing it across. When you're bringing this kind of greeting, hi, how you doing? You don't want to look, hi, how you doing? So ensure that that is brought across, and you can use any one of the feedback models, any one of the feedback strategies, but we are reminded that we always try to use the feedback. So ensure that you have a praise, and then what needs improvement, and then a praise. All right, so they refer to that as the feedback sandwich. Something good, this needs improvement, and you talk about improvement, and then you wrap it up with, great job, repeating the good part if needs be. And then you're going to be as specific as possible. So you give concrete examples from the students' work, and that is part of why it is going to be very important for you to familiarize yourself with the student work before you start. All right. So you focus on the important parts that need improvement, because yes, we're going to talk about what was done well, but the whole aim of teaching and learning is just that, teaching and learning and improving and demonstrating understanding and comprehension. So you want to focus on the important areas that need improvement, and then you end on a constructive note. So you say something like, well, you conclude with encouragement, so that's the second praise in the feedback sandwich, and then you give students some next step. All right. So say, great job, moving forward, these are some of the things that you could do. So you give the students some kind of constructive comment so that the student can then work on that. And when we talk about the delivery techniques, there are some things that we need to consider when we're talking to the student and giving this kind of feedback or even instructions, because I did say we can go beyond just simply feedback. So we want to ensure that we speak as clearly as possible and as moderately. One of the things you'll realize is that in the VLE, for the audio and the video, you only have 2 minutes. So if you have a whole lot to say, you're going to find yourself speeding it up and tripping over yourselves. It is better that you break what it is that you have to say into smaller pieces. All right, so speak clearly, speak at a moderate pace, because you want to ensure that the students are hearing you and understanding what it is that you're saying. And use a conversational tone, please. Please, for the love of all things good, do not look into the camera or speak into the microphone and say the student has so forth. The student is going to be listening. So say you and your and what we could do. So use a conversational tone, aim for friendly but professional. All right. And then try not to use the kind of slang and lingo that the students use, unless, of course, you're using it for example purposes. Vary your vocal inflection. So if it's a question you're asking, make sure that your tone, your voice goes up. So what do you think about this? If you are giving emphasis, you say, remember, we are all about this. So use different vocal inflection. If it's something that you want to use to put as a joke, you can say, don't repeat this, that kind of thing. So we use the different inflections of our vocals to emphasize or to underscore certain points. And if you have 3 main points, make it clear that you have 3 main points. Pause in between so that the information can sink in for the students. Use numbers. So you can say 1, we realize that 2 and 3. So it's clear that these are your main points. And keep it tight. So go for, well, we can't go beyond 2 minutes when we're using the the voice and the video component, but you'd be amazed at how much you can get in 2 minutes. All right. Another content best practices. So this has to do with the content. So instead of saying things like, good job, try to be a little bit more specific and this descriptive. So you may want to say that your analysis of the game Juggernaut Rising, and your use of the metaphors throughout your analysis were insightful, were commendable, were interesting. I mean, it can be different things, but don't just say good. What does good mean for the students? And then you focus on the work that is submitted, not the student. So Jaden may, and I'm using Jaden as a fictitious name here. Jaden may be a student who pays no attention in your class. He's the one who wears his pants at his knees. He comes in chewing, he interrupts. It is not Jaden that you are focusing on. It is Jaden's submission. And so you want to say, you say, instead of saying, you say that this is the case, you say that something like, this paragraph particularly looked at, and use the I and we, because we're using this conversational tone. So say something like, I noticed that the third paragraph in the essay speaks to Juggernaut's inability to empathize. Or you can say, I would suggest that you look at the profile of Juggernaut, and this may provide you with some direction as why he behaves the way he does in the game. Now, I'm using games here. I will either use Spanish or I'll use games. I have a fictitious course that I use for examples, game-based learning in the Caribbean. And so if you hear me make references to game, it's simply because I am linking it to the fictitious game, which we will course, which we will visit in a few. Okay. And then yesterday we learned about the whole idea of actionable feedback. So when we're giving our feedback in our voice and video recordings, we need to offer some kind of concrete suggestion for improvement. So we ask questions, encourage reflection. So have you considered, what about, things like that. And if you can make reference to your work, in your voice recording, if you can make reference to the marking scheme or the rubrics, which students really should have from the beginning, also do that. So you could say, remember that the rubric is looking for your ability to critically analyze, not simply regurgitate the work that is there. And maintaining still on the strategies and best practices for effective feedback. When we talk about maintaining engagement, and there are a few more that we're going to go in quickly. When we talk about maintaining engagement, this is where, if you're using the video, you look into the camera. All right. Give the student that kind of connection. Use the student's name. So Jaden, thank you for your submission. It personalized, many persons feel good when you call their names. Students are no different. So do that kind of thing. Refer to past performance so you can connect this particular submission. If time allows, and depending on the context, of course, you can then say, in the same way that I'm making reference to yesterday's workshop, you could say the submission that you had done on the learner profile, this is a good point. So you could think about incorporating it here, and encourage the student to ask questions and to discuss feedback. So when you're finished, say, think about it, note your questions. I will be available at X point, or, that sort of thing. And I did mention that you could go through things that we call analogies. So, you give an example, you illustrate points with things that the student may be familiar with, or things that are common within the campus. So these are what? 5. I have another 5 to go as strategies and best practices. All right. Content best practice shouldn't have been there. So when we think about the technical considerations, you have to check your audio, you have to check your video to make sure your video camera is indeed working and that your audio, your whatever it is you're speaking in. Some people may use the earphones and their device mic. Some people may use the headset, which comes with that. Whatever it is, you ensure that you test it before you start the recording one, and certainly before you submit the recording to the student. For the videos, I did say that you should try to maintain eye contact, and you don't have to maintain eye contact non-stop. It gets very weird and intense if you do something like this. But the way we have conversations, we look down, we look across, we lean forward. This is something that is acceptable in your video. You pretend that the student is in front of you and you're having this kind of conversation. And if you can, if you have your aids that you can use to demonstrate or highlight certain things, use them. Feedback on different types of work, use the voice and the video feedback on different types of work. So if the student is if the student submits a paper, you can use to talk the audio feedback or voice feedback to talk about different aspects. And you can mix the text with the voice, with the video, just to provide that kind of variation and combination to the presentation. And then, of course, when we talk about the presentations, you can discuss content. So we're talking about different types of work that you can discuss. So you can discuss written work, you can discuss writing, presentations. Don't know where I get writing from again. So you can discuss like the content of the presentation, the delivery, the visual aids. You can do that in your voice and video. You can discuss group projects. You can discuss creative works. You can discuss drafts. There are so many things that you can discuss. And as you discuss these different things, and as we give the feedback to the students there, we need to think about the context in which we operate. All right. So if we know that UE is an international institution, so we have students who come from different countries. They're not just Jamaica. And even in Jamaica, we have students from different linguistic areas. So you have to ensure that you speak clearly, that you avoid colloquialism if needs be, that you are mindful of the language barrier for those whose first language is not English, and you ensure that in cases like these, you back it up with a written version so that the students can have that as well. And when you do all this in getting across to the students, remember, and I've mentioned this before, ask some questions, reflective questions. What do you think are the strongest part of this particular submission that you have given in? And encourage self-assessment. So encourage a student to look at the rubric and look at the work and see how well they have performed. Do that in the recording that you're giving to them, and follow up as much as you can. Ensure that the student understand what it is that you have said and that and shown in some cases, and make yourself available. So ensure that you say, come to see me, my consultation hours are so forth. Check the VLE for my consultation. We can do this virtually. I can leave a voice note, but make yourself available to ensure that the student did understand what you leave. And yeah, I think that is pretty much it when we think about it and talking about follow-up. And remember that the whole idea is that verbal feedback is just a skill which gets better with practice. So we're not going to get it right, especially if we are used to writing our feedback and looking at a rubric and giving the feedback based on that. The whole idea of being comfortable in front of a camera or in front of a microphone in giving feedback to students based on their submissions. It's gonna take time. All right, Rome wasn't built in a day, and so you practice, you do it gradually, and you expand over a period of time as you become more comfortable with the process. And the same way that is new for you, it may be very new for the students too, in giving this kind of response in an audio or video form. So the things that I say to you as strategies and best practice, share them with your students. Do not assume that because they're always on a phone, they know exactly how to operate within an academic context. They may know how to operate in a social context, but the other context, the academic context, where we really want them to thrive, that may not necessarily be the case. All right. So we're gonna have a quick activity. Just before the activity though, because the activity is about 20 minutes, I'm just gonna ask us to do that quickly, to get up and stretch for 2 minutes, no more than 2 minutes or 3, and then we will resume. All right, so Miss Barkley, if you could just stop the recording for about 3 minutes, and colleagues, if you could get up from where you are, just get up and move a little bit, and then when we resume, I will ask us to just reflect on what we did before we get into the activity. All right, so, and for those of us who teach in an online space, just to tell us that, if you have a 3-hour class, if you have a 2-hour class, please ensure that at some points you give the students a break, especially if the students are doing online all day. So ensure that they get a kind of break. There are the experts who will tell you that for every 30 minutes, pause for 3 minutes and look 30 feet away. There are variations to that. So this is something that's worthwhile because it helps to keep the students focused. So after a while, they don't engage in what is known as auditory fatigue, where they just zoom you out. So it helps to keep them focused. They get blood pumping and circulating when they get up, and they keep themselves hydrated if they go and get some water or something like that. So this is just a little aside, but it is something that's useful. I have found it useful, and I try to ensure that I practice it. All right. So far I've given you quite a bit, in terms of the whole idea of voice and video feedback. We have looked at, how important it could be in the educational facts setting. And then we looked at 10, 10 strategies and best practice that we could use for verbal feedback. Any comments? Do you think this is something whose time has come, or this is just another fad that will quickly pass us by in light of what's happening with us and our students? Any comments? Any questions? Anybody?
Sure. Thanks. So I think for me, especially because we do have most of my students are face-to-face now. We've kind of done that. But also there's a lot of what I like to term these days as self-directed learning things that we've put. And one of the things as you were talking is that we put it there, but I don't think that I really engage them to say, okay, are you really taking up the work? And perhaps this way, giving them some points, a 2-minute something for them to respond intermittently might be a good way of engaging them. It may not necessarily be the feedback because they have to do the work first. And we don't have a lot of assignments, but we do have a lot of things they do. But it could also be used for that purpose to say, okay, let me get a feel of what's happening. And you could leave feedback. They can probably use it to and leave something to you that you can listen to and hear maybe the frustration in their voice. And it might augur better. So when you come, when we face them at another time, it helps. So I think that time has come, and it's the perfect time for this kind of thing. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Rhonda. Anybody else? Any other comments, counter comments?
Not a counter comment. This is Melissa. Okay, so this term, starting next week, I will actually be teaching an online course. So it's my first time teaching a truly online course because, as you know, nursing, it's a face-to-face course, but we do have the post-RN, which are the persons who are already nurses, but are upgrading to their bachelor's. So I'm now going to be teaching in that program. I've been in the face-to-face program for a while. In the master's program, I do teach, but it's not an online, it's really a remote, it's really remote teaching. So which I would have learned from you, over the years. Now the two things are quite different. So I now need to get used to teaching what is a true online course, and then seeing how I can, insert some of what I've been learning between yesterday and today, but not overwhelming myself, because yesterday I did start to feel a little overwhelmed and thinking, oh my God, why did I take on this extra course? But
you'll be fine.
I'm hoping that I will find it, exciting. And as Rhonda said, certainly for the students who are in the true online courses, because they are not really seeing, the lecturer, I think the insertion of these video and voice recordings would be very good, because they get a little more personal feel. They get to hear what your voice sounds like. Maybe you would have posted a picture of you or something, but at least they get to see what you look like in live. I think it's very good. I was actually thinking, boy, Moodle, they're getting very innovative, man.
Yes, they take comments and feedback very serious, and so the updates tend to reflect that.
Yes.
And one of the things that I wondered when I first tested it was, why is it only 2 minutes? But if you think about the duration of social media videos, and the ones that really capture attention, they're not very lengthy. And so I think that, these were taken into consideration as well. This is me assuming when they did that. All right, so great. Thank you so much.
Michelle, I want to make a comment about that, because I think you may be correct. Unfortunately, I think certainly, us in nursing, and possibly too, maybe Rhonda, I mean, maybe not so much Rhonda where she is, but certainly in medical training, one of the things we found is that we made videos for the students to learn skills. But unfortunately, these skills cannot be taught in 2 minutes, and the videos cannot be 2 minutes. But I think we managed to get one of the skills down to a 7-minute video. And the students, they never watched it. I think they're thinking, oh my God, this is too long. But in comparison, I think it's just because they've been just overly exposed to these 30-second, 1 minute, 50-second videos, that something that is 7 minutes just seems everlasting. And I think that poses a challenge for us.
The experts will tell you, though. That's Melissa, yes?
Yes.
The experts will tell you that engage them more. If you have a 30-minute video, you can engage them. And so you may realize that you can edit videos now. The H5P, which is the HTML5 package, the H5P allows you to pause a video somewhere, ask question, grade it if needs be, and move forward. So the experts will tell you, you still need to have your 30-minute videos. You still need to have your 45-minute videos, but how will you get the students engaged? And so they say add interactivity. So you may pause the video and put in an interesting point, a did you know fact. You may pause it to ask them to respond in writing to something based on what they just covered. So you're still chunking the 45-minute videos, you're chunking it. But they're still, at the end of it all, they have that 45 minutes or that hour or that 30 minutes of work. So making the videos interactive is a good call. And there are platforms that allow you to do that. And then there is the H5P package, which is embedded into the Moodle that you can use to do that sort of thing. Yes.
Thank you for that. I will certainly talk to my clinical the persons who work in the learning center and will be responsible for making the videos, because I think we need to wheel and come again with some of those videos that we've made before. Thank you for that.
No problem. All right, so we're going to do a quick little activity.
Hello.
Yes.
Sorry, this is Annika.
Hi,
I just
Annika.
wanted to follow up on that, because Well, as I mentioned in the previous session, I'm not a teaching staff, right? I work in the background, but I recall a workshop a few years ago, right? And I was kind of signed up for this session because I thought that was what you were going to deal with. But what you have presented so far has still been interesting because um, although I don't teach, sometimes I do deliver a workshop like you would for some topics that I'm knowledgeable in to colleagues. Um, the video feedback. You just said something about certain platforms online that allow you to give feedback on video.
Yes. So you
And
have,
I'm trying to remember what they were because I remember uh, a session where I was introduced to a platform where the teachers could make videos, the students could make videos, they put it up on the platform, and then when others watch, they can comment directly on the video with text and I believe also with audio. I'm not sure, but they could actually interact with the video, pause it, and make a comment to something that was said or something that was shown on the video.
right.
And I found that really interesting. I don't think the H5P actually does that,
No, it doesn't. I
but
think
it
I
would be
know.
useful to link in. And I don't remember what the platform was called. So yeah.
Um, I did a workshop with Eraldine Shakespeare from UTech some time ago. It will come back to me where we did something like that. So the students could upload their voice notes, they could upload their videos, and the different persons make comments on it. When you're doing the when you're in the breakout room, I'll double check, and then we you can tell me if that is the platform. It was really fascinating because they could add videos onto it, they could add voice notes onto it, they could put
Yeah.
text into it. I don't know
Yeah.
if it's the same one.
It's the same or it's similar. It doesn't really matter which, but
Voice thread. It's called
thread.
voice thread. Is that it?
I possibly, but
Uh,
I don't remember the name,
yes,
but
it's probably so,
yeah,
or something very similar to that.
right.
And voice thread still exists,
Uh-huh,
but we're focusing on the Moodle platform. So that is
right.
why it is taking this kind of direction.
Yeah. Okay.
All
Okay.
right, so we're going to go into two groups. There's a document which is a feedback file from an assignment that a student did. So the student was asked to analyze the game, The Rise of Jargonaut. And so the teacher gave some feedback. So when you go into your rooms, there are three things that you're going to do for me. One, you're going to discuss among yourselves what are the strengths of the feedback that was given. All right, so we're looking at feedback in the first aspect. So you're going to look at what are the strengths of the feedback that was given and what do you think could be improved based on the little that we know about feedback. And then the other thing is that we're going to rewrite it for video or audio recording. So we're going to create the script that we would then record for the student. So two things. One has to do with feedback. So you're going to look at the feedback. Is it enough? Is it clear? Does it praise? Does it point out improvements and that sort of thing? And then if not, how could you improve it? So you make suggestions. And then the second thing that you're going to do in your group is that you're going to use the script, the enhanced script that you have made modifications to, and you're going to rewrite it for audio or video recording purposes. Okay, so I was giving us 20 minutes. I don't know if 20 minutes too long. We'll start out with the 20 minutes. And if when I come to the rooms, you figure that you don't need all that time, we'll end the rooms a little earlier. All right. So Miss Barkley, I think Miss Barkley has shared the file. Please ensure that you have opened it Anybody can try opening it and let me know if it opens fine.
It opens.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. And then she is going to invite you to the rooms or put you in the rooms, and you have 20 minutes on the clock. I will come around so that I can just speak in to make sure that we're on the right track. And when we return, we'll talk about it a little bit, and then we will head over to the VLE to actually look at this feature. All right? So 20 minutes, Miss Barclay, and then you can pause the recording until we return so we don't have 20 minutes of silence. Miss Barclay? Thank you. Thank you, Miss Barclay. I jumped into the room, peeked into the rooms, heard quite a bit of discussion and animated discussion as you were working through the strengths and the weaknesses of the feedback and the rewriting process. So there are only two groups, so we will take group one and then we will move right into group two. We are calling group one the group which has Annika, Carleen, Nikisha, Rhonda, and Violet. And then room two will be Melissa, Mikkel, Renee, and Stacy. So we'll go in that order. You may share if you want to. All right, great.
Okay, so probably this shouldn't come first, but what we found were the strengths were that the praise aspect of the report were the praise aspect was specific. Really, it was nice and concise. She did start with a commendation, and I thought it was short enough to not get too, overburdened and overbearing. What we thought was perhaps not as well was that the parts that spoke of the improvement wasn't very specific. X and Y need improvement. Doesn't help the student if the student already did something. They want to know perhaps what aspects of it, as well as she grouped two things. So she had grouped like game mechanics and implementation challenges as one. They need improvement, but these are two separate things that may have separate areas of improvement. I thought we thought it was not specific enough and helpful. And the end, fix up and resubmit, sounded harsh, and it was sudden and abrupt, and it didn't really put in, that nice little ending where you want to give it a little bit more praise and a little bit of something. So we thought that it really didn't help. And then finally, overall, it was very impersonal. This could just have been a rubber stamp of something. It wasn't specific to a person. It didn't have any nice little personal pronouns, little something to make it sound as if you were really speaking to a person rather than perhaps a paper. Okay, so this is what we did. We highlighted the changes in red that we thought improved it a little bit. So it says, thank you for the submission, Janet. We gave the person a name. You clearly put a lot of effort in this work. And then we went into, so we just added your description of the game provides clear and concise understanding of its premise and so on. You did an excellent job rather than just saying excellent job, which was what was there before. And they said the points like colonialism, cultural diversity, and economic development, the original one said are good. So we took the good part and we said clear and insightful to try to make it a little bit better than just good. And then we put in the points you made, because the original said games cultural relevance, thorough and well argued. Again, it didn't sound so right. So we made it a little better. So so this now is the improvement part. So this part just started by saying games, mechanics, analysis, and implementation challenges need improvement. That's how that sentence was. We fixed it up to say you made some good points about the games mechanics. Your analysis could be improved by discussing the elements of the game system. You identified some very interesting challenges, but overlooked a key difficulty, that of time constraint in the implementation. So we made it more specific. And we ended by removing fix and resubmit by saying, I really did enjoy reading your work. And I look forward to seeing your resubmission. And I can be reached at blah, blah, blah for any discussions or queries you may have. That is what we came up with.
All right. Thank you very much. Any
Oh,
comments
nice.
from the other group? Any quick comments before we take your point? And I'm going to share with you what I had put together as well.
I think this is good.
I think so
Okay.
too. I think
Yeah.
Thank you.
the discussion of how you worked through
Yes.
was a good one. All right, let's jump into room 2.
Room 2. Are you seeing my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so thank you to my lovely group mates. So the areas of strength that we identified was the positive overall. So it was positive overall, and it provided details regarding the areas that the student did well. The areas for improvement, just as was said before, well, I don't think she said it before, but the person didn't use the sandwich method. So they started off with positive, but they didn't end with a positive. They kind of just started off with positive, say what wasn't done well, and it wasn't really explained very well what the student didn't do well, and then it just ended. So that would have needed to be improved. So this is our script, and I'm going to read it as we possibly would have intended for it to be recorded. Hello, Joshua. I'm about to give you some feedback on your assignment. Good job on your description of the game. It provided a clear and concise understanding of its premise, main characters, and overall structure. You did an excellent job identifying the game's key learning objectives and drawing connections to the Caribbean history curriculum. Points like colonization, cultural diversity, and economic development were good. Your argument of the game's cultural relevance was thorough. The areas I want you to improve include the analysis of the mechanics of the game. Explain in depth how the game actually works. I need you also to be more comprehensive in explaining the implementation challenges. Perhaps list the challenges and then explain them in detail. So I will allow you to make the changes, then resubmit. And finally, again, I just want to say that you did a good job overall with the description of the game, and you were clear in describing its premise, main characters, and overall structure. That's it.
Comments from group 1?
Very nice indeed. I like
Yeah.
I think, yeah, the audio part. It sounded like it was an audio.
Okay.
That
I
was the
al-
actual audio.
I also did a little bit of adjustments to it. I didn't highlight what was strong and bad, but the points that you brought across are the points but I also did something. I think you should be able to see it. So I named myself as the student. So I had, "Hi, Michelle. Thank you for submitting your analysis on the rise of Juggernaut." Outlining and keeping the praises, I did the same. One of the things that I did a little bit different was when I made the suggestion, I asked 2 questions. So I said, "I think using Daniel's framework may help with the mechanics. What do you think?" This will force the student to take a look at Daniel's framework and look again at the submission to see if it could work here. And I used that strategy again when I asked about the recommendations. So I said, "What do you think about using the recommendations? Could they be more closely tied to identifying the issues and the implementation plan?" I did what group 1 did in terms of giving the submission, but I gave a time period. So I said, make the adjustments and resubmit within a week. The group 1 gave the number. I gave more options. So if you need further clarification, reach out via email, the WhatsApp group, or come by my office during virtual office hours. So I can see from the three presentations that we were thinking about the verbal feedback aspect of it, and definitely make all three presentations made an improvement on what was given. I like the rationale behind the weaknesses, and I love what I have seen in terms of using the sandwich approach, where you start with a praise, you talk about the improvement, you end with a praise, and I like the invitation for action that came out at the end. All right. So don't throw this away. You're actually going to get a chance to do recordings, but for now, we are going to head over to the VLE to look at how exactly does this work and how can we set it up. All right. So let me just minimize that. So one of the first things, I had asked yesterday, and I'll ask again today there's a little practical activity that we're going to do. So could you just please indicate if you actually have access to learning manage to the VLE that you can go in and tweak. All right. So
I don't have access to the courses yet.
all right, that's fine. Keep the hands up. So I see Rhonda, and Rhonda and Nikisha weren't in the same room.
Yes, I think we were.
Yes, I believe they were.
Yes.
All right, so we may have to separate them if we're doing that for the next session. All right, thank you, ladies. All right, so one of the things that we would have to do, we'd have to go to our course. All right, so here I am on the VLE, and I am going to go into my course. So this is my fictitious course that I was telling you about, game-based learning in the Caribbean. So I would click on it, and then of course the information would be there for my students. I am going to go through the activities as a teacher facilitator first, and then we will look at it as a student. All right. So one of the things that we need to start out with actually is ensuring that the editor is the editor that we need. All right. So the editor determines whether or not you see the icon. So to double check whether or not you have that, you would go to your image or your icon at the top where your name is and scroll down to preferences. All right. When you click on preferences, you will see three different menus: user account, blogs, and badges. We're interested in the user account. So you'll scroll down to where it says editor preferences. All right. And then when you click on editor preferences, please ensure that it says default editor. The default editor is very basic, but it has the audio and the video features. The one that I tend to use is a Tiny MC, because what it does is that it allows me more formatting opportunities than the default. So you'd have to determine how you proceed, because the Tiny MC doesn't have the built-in mic and video capabilities. All right, so make sure that it says default editor, and if you didn't have that, you can change it. Make sure you click save changes. All right, so when I'm going back to my course, and how do I know that that has been done? When I turn editing on and I click to edit anything, I will see the record audio icon, and I will see the record video icon. All right, and you will realize, so I'm going to just come out of this for a minute. You'll realize that you can locate it in any one of your activities and your resources. So they have truly integrated it into your resources and into your activities. Now, how would we use this? Okay, I'm going to start something that's new. All right, so I'm going to click on add an activity and a resource. And then I am going to go to forum. So I'm going to set up a forum for my students. All right. And I'm going to call the forum the Rise of Juggernaut, because that is what we were talking about. Juggernaut. All right. An analysis. It's all right. So that's not an error. Okay. And then I'll put in my description. So I'll put here exactly what it is the student should do. I'm going to just go to my lorem ipsum generator so that I can get my text so that I don't end up spending a lot of time thinking through what exactly needs to be done. All right, so here I'm going back to my forum and I put the description. So all the details of what it is I want the student to do is here. And then of course I would set up the rest of things, whether or not the students are allowed attachments, whether or not every time a student posts, I get it coming to my email. I go through, I look at whether or not I'm going to give it a grade, whether or not I want to close it at this point or not. Whether or not I'm restricting any access, meanings the students have to do something else before it becomes available. The activity completion is on because I had set up the badges in there. All right. So I'm just going to change this to do not. All right, and then when I'm happy, I can save and return to course, or I can save and display. I'm going to save and display because I want to see exactly what will happen. All right, so this is the information that would be there. Now, I want to ensure that I put a video thing in, and I want to put in a little recording in it so that my students have the text and they have the audio and they have the video in the same thing. And I also want to ensure that my students can record. All right, but for now I'm giving it to them using the audio and the video. Now, one of the things that you have to do, you go back to settings because you're going to edit this. All right, when you go back to settings, you put your cursor where you want your recording to appear. So I want it to come down here, and I'm going to start with an audio recording. All right, so I'm just going to put something in. When you click on record, it will give you the option to start recording. I'm not going to start recording as yet because once I start, everything else that I'm saying is going to be captured in here. But you get the option to start recording. And when you start recording, you'll realize that there is a 2-minute window and there is a countdown timer. So you have an idea of when it is exactly the recording will stop. You have an idea of how much time you will have left. All right, so I'm going to record. The rise of Jargonaut is considered one of the best Caribbean-based games, and it follows the character Jargonaut and his historical journey throughout the Caribbean main events. Your task, should you choose to accept it, is to review the game. So you will have to play the game. Remember, I did tell you this was the coolest course, right? So you will have to review the game, and then you will do an analysis using the rubric that was provided in class and give us your perspective backed by the literature of what and how Jargonaut became one of the most powerful games in the Caribbean sphere. All right, so I'm stopping here because I am done. You realize that I said a whole heap and that is just 49 seconds. The thing is, you have the option to play it so you can hear yourself. I'm gonna do a quick reshare so that the sound is captured. 1 minute. All right, so I can replay. The Rise of Jargonaut is considered one of the best Caribbean-based games, and it follows the character Jargonaut and his historical journey throughout the Caribbean main events. Your task, should you choose to accept it, is to review the game. So you will have to play the game. Remember, I did tell you this was the coolest course, right? Okay, so you listen and you realize right away that some of the things that I said could not really be captured in if it were written, the intonation a while ago, you do realize that this is the coolest. So this you can't capture in writing, and then you have the option where you can download it. So remember when I said that for archiving purposes as a facilitator, you can download, all right? And then you can adjust the playback speed. This seems to be a feature that is common with recordings now. I realize that it's in WhatsApp, it's on YouTube, record videos and so forth, where you can adjust the speed. So you can go faster than the normal. All right, if you're happy with it, you can attach the recording. If you want to make adjustments, then you record again and your 2 minutes starts over. But we're happy with this, aren't we? So we are going to press attach recording. And it takes a little time while it does the conversion and insertion, and there it is. So this is what it looks like from your view. If I were to save this and display, this is what the video would look like. So the recording. So it means that you would have to make some kind of note to the students that they should play, because some may just ignore it. So you'd have to put something after you have put your text base, something, some kind of directive or instruction to the students to say, click on the recording to continue the, or get more details or something like that. And that is all there is to putting in your note. Now, this is not the feedback as yet. This is just the using the audio, the voice aspect to leave a recording. Okay, so now I am going to put a video in, all right? And the video is gonna come from the student. So the student is responding. Well, let's not do that. The student has responded and you're going to give a video. Now, how do I think I had set up something. So let me go back. So that is you putting in something, all right? And this is a forum that I had set up earlier. This is the student. So the student had responded. I'm the only person in the course. So I have been moving between students and teacher. All right. So this is the student, and the student did a recording.
Hi, Miss. Thank you very much for this activity. I enjoyed the survey so much. And as I was going through, I realized that I am indeed an achiever. I am the type of person who wants to get as many badges as possible, wants to get the highest, but I'm not the type who's going to jeopardize.
All right, so the student has responded. And so you as the teacher, you're going to give your feedback, and you're giving a video feedback. So one of the things that you would need to realize, oh, by the way, if you do this and you don't see the icons, just simply click on advanced. It will open a more, a wider window, if you will. So you are about to give the feedback to the student. And again, you want to give, even though the student is going to see the video and will play, you will say something to the student. So Michelle, thank you for your submission. Please see the video feedback below. All right, and then you press enter so that the video can be recorded. So this is now your video. You have to ensure that your background is appropriate. It is not distracting. You don't want the students to be paying more attention to your background than they are to what's going on. If you find yourself in a situation where you were in Zoom and you were using a Zoom virtual background, please bear in mind that when you do this, you lose that virtual background. So it's going to be important for you to ensure that your background is one that is not too cluttered, not too distracting, doesn't give away too much personal information. So I'm going to click on the video, and I am going to turn my video off in Zoom because it's one camera, so that I can use the video in this. So I'm going to start recording. Hi, Michelle. Thank you very much for the submission. Oh my goodness. I saw the different point levels and I agree with your analysis of yourself. Bartle did do an interesting and a very convincing job of ensuring that the descriptors are reflective of who you are. I particularly like the fact that you went through and you also paid attention to the other sub profiles that you carry. The truth is, and Bartle said it as well as Werbach and Hunter in their 2022 book, they did say that no one person is completely a killer socializer, an explorer, or an achiever. And I liked the fact that you didn't just say you're an achiever and left it there. You also included that you were and gave the percentages of the other section. So well done, keep it up, and I look forward to the rest of the activities that you will be going through in this particular class. Look out for the next stars. Well done. All right. Oh my goodness, my mouth is wide open. All right, so you have done that. You can record the video again, or if you're happy with it, you attach the video. Now, it takes a little while longer for the video because it uses, you know, the images and so forth. And so there I am. And if I'm happy about this, I can then post it. So the student will see this. Okay. One of the things that you probably need to ensure that you do, because I was looking at this over here, the camera, and paying attention to the recording, I ended up with my mouth wide open. Not a very flattering image. So this is something that you probably want to think about as well. If you're using 2 monitors, ensure that the screen that you're sharing is a screen that will have the details for your recording so that you can keep your mouth shut. All right. So it says, please see the video, and then I click on it. Hi, Michelle. Thank you very much for the submission. Oh my goodness. I saw the different point levels and I agree with, all right. And, you know, if I'm happy about that, I can leave it there. So here I have posted the audio. You see where the student has done the post. So the student sees the same things as we do without having to turn editing on and so forth. And so once you set it up, the student can simply click on the icon, do the recording, and respond. All right. And you can have that kind of conversation, something like voice notes in WhatsApp, or any of those messaging platforms where you can keep that conversation going, having a combination of text, videos, and voice notes and comments. And I mean, that's as easy as it gets when we think about incorporating these things. All right. So, and one of the things that I'm going to do at this particular point, I'm going to give you an opportunity to record. So I noticed that 2 persons put their hands up. We can delete it afterwards. So I want you very quickly to do a recording of the adjustments that you made so that we can look at the time and we can look at how it came across after you have done the recording. You may have to do several retakes of it until you get it right. But right now we're in practice mode. So who wants to do a recording in your course so that we can see what you do? Anybody?
Recording on what we worked on, or on anything?
You could do what we worked on, or you can do something else that is relevant to the course that you teach. It really doesn't matter. It's just getting that hands-on practice of doing it.
And I have to do the video?
No, you can do audio or you can do video.
Okay. Okay, I can try.
All right, go ahead. I'm going to ask you to share your screen so we can just see it again for
Sure.
muscle memory purposes. I'm going to stop sharing.
Are you seeing my screen? Are you guys seeing my screen, right?
Yes, we can see the screen.
Yes, we can
Yes,
see the
yes.
screen.
Okay. So this is one of the courses I'll be teaching this semester, environmental economics. And I actually have my discussion forum set up already. So I'm just gonna, well, I mean, I'm on my profile, so I'm just gonna pretend that somebody completed the discussion. and I just respond to them. Or maybe that's not a good idea. But anyways, so they wouldn't have done anything yet. But let me just pretend as if they did. So Janet.
Or it could be a general comment, sometimes when you're going through, you realize that several students have the same particular issue or the same strong point. This could be just a general video or voice note on the particular topic.
Okay.
So there you go.
Okay, so I don't know what am I gonna say now. So I'm gonna click record. Okay. All right, good afternoon, everyone. I'm happy that all of you completed the discussion on environment and development on time. The responses were indeed very grabbing, very interesting. I saw that you guys definitely watched the video and you found a lot of things appealing. One major issue that I found though is that majority of the students or majority of you only, engaged your colleagues briefly and the comments were not substantive, right? So for the next discussion forum, I'm going to encourage you to not only say that the our particular response was good or bad, but say why it is that the statement was good or bad, right? And this is very important because this is how you will actually get full participation points, right? So again, wonderful job, everyone, and continue to engage the material thoroughly and respond to your colleagues, giving brief but substantive comments. Attach the recording and post. So that's it, I guess.
Are you gonna play
You
it
should
back?
listen to it.
Yes.
You should play it back.
Myself. Okay, all right. All right, good afternoon, everyone. I'm happy that all of you completed the discussion on environment and development on time. The responses were indeed very grabbing, very interesting. I saw that you guys definitely watched the video and you found a lot of things appealing. One major issue that I found though is that majority of the students or majority of you.
All right, pause it for a minute, please, Nikisha.
Yeah.
All right, so listening back to it, is there anything that you would have changed before you posted it?
Well, the first thing that I would have done is that I would have written out.
Right, a script.
And I in particular need to do this because I tend to talk very fast. I have a problem with talking too fast. So definitely that's something I have to do for sure. And so I was talking too fast there and I don't know, I was babbling. I don't know.
Did it sound a little bit tinny to the rest of you?
Yes, so I was going to say that it sounded I don't know if it was hollow or but there was a kind of so it didn't sound the way it sounded when you were making the recording because we could hear you when you were recording it. And then I was listening just now and I was saying, why does it sound like that? So I was wondering if it has something to do with your device.
Or the location.
Or the location.
Where are you, Melissa?
Yeah, I'm at home.
No, we're at home.
Oh, in the living room.
So the living room tends to be a bit spacious and the living room tends to have hard furniture that tends to bounce. So maybe that, maybe
the bedroom or something.
The bedroom, or you could carry a couple pillows out and throw them or set them up closer to where you'd be doing the recording so that they absorb the sound. You can test it. You'd be amazed at the difference. Yes, some professionals will tell you that, you know, you can open your wardrobe and just sit down on the bottom of it because all the clothes you have hanging in there tend to, yes, absorb that kind of noise. All right. So I'm glad you recognize that you would have to do a script. And I like the fact that you corrected yourself when you said some of the students, and then you said you guys, you know, you all. And I could see that even though you didn't have a script working with, you started out with the good points. Yes, you just spoke about what needed improvement, and then you wrapped it up with that kind of reminder of job well done. Okay, thank you very much. Okay. And then you realize that using it once you have your editor, because not everybody has the default editor. So one of the first things that you do when you go in and you don't see that, you just quickly check to see if the editor is a default editor, and remember to save. And then once you do that, all the activities, I tested them, all the activities, all the resources allow you to put that audio and that video element in. No.
Michelle?
Yes.
It's Melissa. Yeah, just one of the things I can now appreciate that it's important for us to at least play it back so we can hear what it sounds like. Because I mean, in the recording, we might think it's okay, but the moment you play it back and you actually listen to it, you will now get to hear what the students will actually hear, and you yourself might not like it, and you might think, okay, all right, what do I need to change? Yes, etc.
Yes, that is true. That's a good point. That's a good point, Melissa. And so even for us as facilitators, you know, apart from the environmental issues, when we talk, because we're not used to giving feedback like this, we automatically pause. And so a colleague of mine used to say that another colleague is more armed than dangerous, because you realize that every other word is an or a long space that you would have that opportunity to listen to and to adjust. There are some persons who use very professional tools when you're doing this sort of thing. You don't have to. You just have to use the poor man tricks and strategies to help you produce something that's clear, and you practice. I did say that when I started, I did say that we're not used to giving badge-based feedback. We're not used to giving voice feedback on a submission in the VLE. We're used to going in, uploading image, text, writing text, putting more text and text and text, and we may put a link to a video or so forth, but we're really not used to engaging with the audio and the video components as we are currently learning. So it's going to take a little bit of a time. Don't be too hard on yourselves. And practice. The more you practice, the more you become a little more comfortable with it. The more you become comfortable, the more you'll do more, you know. So keep at it. All right. So there is another activity that I wanted to do with us before I go into the final aspect. And it has to do with the VLE, but it has to do with what can you do with voice notes and voice notes and video notes, voice comments and video comments, voice feedback and video feedback. So I'm posting this in the chat. It's an invitation to a Padlet. All right. So the question is asking you, and I'll share the Padlet after you have started. I'll share my screen so that you can see what's going on. So it's asking you, what are some innovative ways? So now that we know that this feature exists, and it exists in resources, it exists in, before we go there, it exists in activities. I did say that I will show you from the students' point of view. So let me just quickly do that. All right, so I'm going back to the course, and I'm just going to change role to student. I'm turning off the editing. So I am here as a student. So this is what the student would see. So here I have an announcement, and I have put an image in, and I have instruction. Welcome to the course. Click the play button and listen to listen to the message, or click here to read the details. So I am thinking about students who may be audio challenged and those who may be visually challenged. So I have both audio and text, and I have that, and I have my instructions there. So that is in the news and announcements. Okay, and then I have something here that give the students instructions. So just in case that they need help with their recording for any submission that you're giving them, they can get that kind of information. Okay, and then I'm going down here. So this is student work, and this is an assignment that was given, and this is a student's assignment, but I didn't grade it. But this is one of the things that you can do. If you set it up, you can actually give the student audio feedback, video feedback, and text. So you can use a combination. You can use one, or you can use both in giving feedback on assignments, or you can use a combination of all three. So the student would see that. And then, of course, what is your game and typology? The student would have, the instructions so that the student can leave a voice or a video. So the student leaves the information, and then you give the feedback that is there. So this is what the student would see. All right. So just taking us through what the student would see if it were the student. And I did say, let me just go right back to the student. I did say that the student would not have to worry. So once the student selects reply, all right, and then you would have to inform the student that if they're not seeing those icons, they would have to click on advanced. The student sees the icons. So you don't have to worry that, oh, the student don't have can't turn editing on and so forth. That's fine. The Moodle has set it up, this version has set it up so that the student have access once you want the students to be able to respond using audio and video. And you can do that with the assignment. You can do that in the glossary. You can do that in the forum. Can you do that in the choice? I didn't check the choice, but there are a number of activities where the student can respond using video or audio. But in just about all of them, you can respond to the student using voice or video feedback. All right. So back to the Padlet. So I have shared the link. I'm just going to share it again, just in case anybody missed it. And so what you're going to do is you're going to just jot down what are some innovative ways that you could use the voice and the video in addition to the text on the VLE. Based on what is put here, I will add some more, and then I will share this with you so that you can put those in place. So this is just a little quick activity. Each person can put 1 point in. I noticed that Renee had to run. That's fine, Renee. Thank you for coming. But right now, I would love to get one view. And Miss Barkley, I'm inviting you to write one as well. What are some innovative ways that we could use audio and video, given the fact that we can use it in any of the resources, any of the sections, any of the blocks, any of the activities in this version of Moodle? All right, now to use this, you will simply click the plus button that is at the bottom right, and then it will open a window. Where it says subject, you will tell, so I'm going to put news and announcements here so that you can see news and announcements. And then where it says write something incredible, you will tell how. All right, so include an audio or a video note in addition to text welcoming students for the first announcement. All right, and then you simply click on publish, and your point will be published. All right, so it will turn up here. If you need to make any adjustments, you click the 3 dots and you scroll down to where it says edit. If you want to change the color of your post, you simply click on one of these here and it will change it. But when you click on edit, it opens it back so that you can write and make your adjustments. So I'm just going to make my adjustments here. All right, so let us put 5 minutes on the clock. I'm going to put 5 minutes on the clock so that we can work through this. I think if I put up the 5 minutes, you should be able to see it as well. Oh, I am not using my thing, so I can't put a timer. All right, that's fine. It is 8 minutes past. So say 12:15, we will stop. All right, so 12:15. And if you have any challenges in posting, just let me know. I will walk us through again. And since this will be 5 minutes of empty space, Miss Barkley, I'm going to ask you if you could pause us again. This is the last pausing. Okay, so thank you very much for the suggestions that I see coming in. I realize that people are still in, and that's fine. You have access to the link, you can keep going. So the question we asked was, now that you know that the voice and video components of this current version of Moodle is available, and it's available not for you to just simply give feedback, but you can actually use it in a myriad of other ways in all the different resources, activities, the blocks, the sections. What are some creative ways? And I see that the information has been coming in. So it definitely makes the course interesting. You can use it for weekly wrap-up. And for weekly wrap-up, I assume that this person means that the teacher can use it for as a summary or can invite the students to give their summary of the week. So it can be done both ways. Post-class activities, students can do fun post-test or instant feedback, especially useful for those who are shy. And yes, we have to think about that inclusive environment so we don't leave anyone behind. Outside of class support. So out of class support, twice weekly check-ins or office hours where you can give students a chance to discuss their goals, advice, and receive encouragement. And you can also help students access additional resources such as tutoring services and so forth. Yes, and if you're doing the video aspect, you can easily use that visual aid to help you when you're giving that. News and announcements. So in addition to posting, sometimes you have a lengthy post, you know, in your news and announcement, you can break it up. So you can have a part as text, a part as audio, a part as video, or you can decide that you're not going to make it text because the text is too lengthy. You could do the audio or you could do the video, and you could give feedback. Thank you very much for this one, Annika. You can provide personalized video feedback in the assignments, as you can see, the forum, the glossaries, and so forth. You can instruct the students to do peer review videos to improve interaction. And so with the resignation of Flip, which was formerly Flipgrid, this is an ideal way of getting the students to give video feedback on different things.
Yes.
And then again, yes. And then again, there is the assignments and the reflection. And the final one that we have that I'm looking at talks about giving notices to students, giving feedback on the assignments, demonstrating a procedure. You know, it's not going to be too long because you only have 2 minutes, but you can use it to demonstrate a procedure and so forth. And you can incorporate it like in the book feature or the lesson feature where you actually use that podcast style. So I will add that as another possibility. All right. So thank you very much for posting that. Yes.
Yes. So what I was thinking when I wrote that, the one about the demonstration is, for example, students might be asked to send a video of them doing a particular procedure. maybe after you've watched the procedure, at one point the student had a hand position that was incorrect. Maybe you could just send just a short snippet to say, place your hand this way instead of how you had it in your video. So it's really not, I mean, I said demonstrate, proceed, but it's really not the entire procedure. It's more like the correction to something the student would have sent.
Yes.
Because
That's
sometimes
beautiful.
it's difficult when you are giving verbal, you know, it's good for them to see something, even though you're saying put your hand flat, let your thumb so and so, you know, it's best if they could just see your hand doing something.
Yes.
That would be helpful.
Very good. Thank you for the explanation. And I'm going to invite you to actually update that. Yes, Nikisha, your hand is up. Go ahead, please.
Yes, so I usually use Flip. I know it's retired. So so that's why when I was doing the recording, although it was from my end, I know that immediately I'm going to ask students to, or give them the option to record rather than write their responses. So that's why I said that the lecturer, meaning me, can actually instruct the students to, you know, do some peer-to-peer interactions. So I love this feature about Moodle, especially since, you know, Flip won't be available until after September.
Exactly. That's a great idea. Remember to download your videos before. It's only view only mode now. So just try to.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you very much for the clarifications and the extensions, ladies. And let us go and wrap this up. So we just went in, and I did say that we would collaborate. I will collate the collaboration and share in afterwards. All right. Okay. And so we just reiterating what we have essentially gone through when we are looking at using audio and video feedback or audio and video comments. So when we're looking at the voice and video comments in the VLE, we need to consider basic recording tips. All right. So we need to remember that use a good microphone, a headset or a standalone, but make sure that it is something that works well. You know, the sort of quality that you get is something that is good. Record in a quiet environment. If you have those noise canceling microphones, headphones, headsets, you could use one of those. But make sure that the environment is relatively quiet, because you'd be amazed at what gets picked up when you're recording. Speak clearly, speak at a moderate tone. And I like the fact that Nikisha pointed out that she knows that a weakness of hers is speaking too fast. So for the recording purpose, she knows that she will have to make a concerted effort to slow down. So speak clearly, speak at a moderate tone, use a conversational tone. So far, speak at a moderate pace, use a conversational tone. So far, everybody has, you know, based on the examples that we have gone through, you have that down pat. You know, you have been using that conversational tone. You recognize right away what conversational looks like, and you have been doing that. And keep the recording short. So yes, we get that limit of 2 minutes, but if you don't need to use it 2 minutes, don't use it 2 minutes. Okay, so remember, short and sweet, keep it short and sweet. And then test the audio. So test the audio, do the playback. So don't just do the recording and then attach the recording. Do the recording, play back the recording, pick up on anything, you can always do it again, and then you submit it. For the video part, so with the recording, you don't have to worry about how you look, your appearance, body language, facial language, or anything like that. For video recording, some of the things that you need to bear in mind would be things like the lighting. So ensure that you have good lighting, that the light hits you from this end rather than from behind you. All right, so that shows you up much better. Some people can use the natural light. The sunlight works well. You can add additional light, and simply turning up the brightness on your computer. If you're using your computer, that helps as well. Position your camera at eye level because you want to be looking at the person who you're giving the feedback to. And look in the camera every now and again. You don't have to hold that look, but look into the camera every now and again. Use a neutral background as much as possible. I'm using a backdrop, a bookcase backdrop, something like that works. You can use an office wall, put your back against a wall, that sort of thing. And make sure you dress professionally. Even though the students, I'm not going to see all of you, at least the top half of you should be professional. And as much as possible, use your visual aids to help you when you are going through your video recording. When it comes onto the content, make sure you start with a personal greeting. All right. So talk to the student. Hi, Michelle. Hello, Michelle. Good afternoon, Michelle. How are you? Provide some sort of context. So say for this particular assignment or this particular task, something like that. So give some kind of context as you go on. Balance the feedback with constructive criticism. So you can use any one of the feedback models or any one of the feedback strategies, but ensure that there is that balance and be specific with what it is that you say to the students. You want the students to be able to have that kind of takeaway, what was done well, what we needs improvement. And so in order for the student to be able to see that, we have to be specific with the comments that we make. So don't say this is a good assignment and leave it at that. What made the assignment good? How did the student treat the analysis aspect? What about the follow-up? Did the student include the reflective questions? The ask for 2, the student gave 10. Certain things like that. So be specific and offer suggestions, actionable suggestions for improvement. Don't just say fix it up and resubmit. Give ideas without giving answers to how the students can make that kind of adjustment. For the technical aspect, we need to think about ensuring that how, if you're not seeing the recording icons, you need to know how to just go and check your editor preferences so that you can ensure that you have the correct editor and therefore you are seeing it. With the default editor, you don't have to, it does an it automatically saves your work. So you don't have to worry about save and display, save and return to course. It does that kind of saving, something similar to Google Docs and Google Sites. So be mindful of that. And then if you have, if it's something short that you want to say, you don't have to worry too much about it. If it's something longer, ensure that you have little points just jotted down so that you can look at it every now and again and jump into it. All right. I don't think I haven't tested that aspect of it. I was thinking about it. But the videos are usually just 2 minutes and the audio is 2 minutes. So you don't have to worry about things like putting in key points as how they do it on the YouTube video. Okay. Where possible, if you can provide a text summary of the audio or the video, you can do that, because one of the things you'll realize is that the students cannot download the videos, they cannot download the audio that you record. So if you can provide some text summary, you can do so for those who want to download. For the teaching and learning aspect, the pedagogical tips, ensure that it's about the teaching and learning. So it's not about using the recording. It's not about the tool so much as it is about the teaching and learning process. So when you do use the voice and video recording aspect, ensure that you're explaining the concepts that are complex that the students need to understand. Incorporate your visual aids when you're doing a demonstration for the video. Encourage the student to respond to the feedback because you want to find out whether or not it is clear to the student. And then, of course, you can do that combination as we found out. So you can mix the voice with the video with the written feedback or instructions as much as possible. And test it. we always say test it. Get some feedback from your students. Is this something that, having introduced it, is this something that they like? Would they want to see more of it? So we do these things for our students, and therefore we need to get input from them, whether or not it is working, how well it is working, if this is something that they should continue with. All right, so these are just some of the things that we need to bear in mind. And as I leave you, I just want to give, again, it may sound repetitive, but reinforcement, reentry, and so forth is what education is all about. So remember that the whole goal is about teaching and learning. And I've used this sort of examples with different tools right across the board, just about every time. It's about the teaching and learning experience. It's not about the technology. So if you have something going wrong, if you have a class that is a bad class and you added the voice and video notes, it is just a bad class with voice and video notes. So remember, the focus is on the teaching and learning experience, what it is you want to guide the student with, so that the learning outcomes that you have put together are achieved. Okay, start small. Start small. It was ambition that killed Caesar. So start small. Okay, begin with one video note, one voice note for one thing, and get feedback to see how you feel about it, how your students feel about it. And as you become more comfortable, then you can extend. Okay, remember the time limit. So it's only 2 minutes that you get. 2 minutes for the video, 2 minutes for the voice. So bear that in mind and plan out. Always start with a plan before you actually get into the activities. So start with a plan. Remember, prioritize quality. It's about clear audio, clear video. The quality needs to be important, because it defeats the purpose of us using voice and video recordings and feedback and instructions if the students can't hear, right? Use simple backgrounds if you are having a video. Make sure your lighting is good. Stay relevant. All right, so ensure that the audio or the video element has a clear pedagogical purpose. What is it that you're teaching the student? What is it you want the student to revisit? What is it you want the student to extend on, to expound? What is it you want the student to reflect on? And remember, you can't leave the learning outcomes and out of it at all. So we always go back to the whole constructive alignment aspect. So even within the feedback, you have to bear that in mind. And then, well, I said this several times, get your students engaged. All right, remember that when they're using the video and the audio, it's not to replace the other things that you expect them to do. So it's simply supposed to act as a complementary tool to the other tasks that they're doing. And encourage the students, take them through how to use this thing for those who may not be comfortable, and for those who are already comfortable, do the revision. Think about your students who may have audio challenges, video challenges, and do that kind of combination to maintain the accessibility aspect of it. And I did say seek feedback, jot these things down, write a paper, share it with your colleagues. I don't know if you have like bag session, what do they call them? Lunch and learn sessions, blue bag, black bag, red bag sessions, whatever it is.
I think it's brown bag.
Brown. There you go. I know it was a color, Thank you. Thank you so
Yes.
much. So the brown bag sessions. And the variety is the spice of life. So mix it up. Don't just go straight for audio only, video only, or text only, but mix it up. And as much as you can, extend your exploration to the Moodle platform a little bit more. So now you know about the audio and video aspect. You can do a little exploration. It won't break, not that easily. And I did say share and collaborate and monitor and document, so that you can get a paper out of it, or you can, do some kind of of presentation. One of the things that I needed to point out as we wrap this session up is because students are going to be using videos and using audios, we have to be mindful of the privacy and security aspect. Okay, so you need to, and this is not just for your students alone, but this is also for you. If you have anybody else in the background, make sure that they're out, because you're not going to be able to edit, you know, these videos. Yes, you can probably download them and then re-upload, but then it defeats the purpose of you just simply doing a recording there. So make sure that you don't have other people, places that, you know, with names that you're not supposed to be sharing without getting permission. And then for your students, yeah, you may want to assure them that what they do remains here and will only be seen by you and auditors. If you need to have them sign something, have them sign something, but be mindful how you use that. And because as a facilitator, you have download privilege, so you can download. Don't share it in a public space knowing that your student's face is going to be there, maybe their names and ID numbers. So we have to think about the privacy and confidentiality aspect when we ask them to record. Moodle is called it's called learning in a box, because what happens is that what happens is that everything is contained right there. Right now, in most cases, we can get away with Moodle being in that kind of box, meaning everything is done here, so you don't have to worry so much about people getting access to these things. Well, if you take it outside, then it means that you're going to have to be mindful of this. And even if you're using it just in there, I would put up a little thing to say to the student that, you know, even though your faces will be shown in the video, everything is going to be kept right here within the Moodle, and the only persons who will have access to this will be your colleagues, and me and any external auditor. And then reassure them that nobody else can download the videos, and you can test it in student mode, and you can set it up and ask somebody else to log in as a student and test it, just to remind yourself and to assure yourself that this is the case. All right, so for today's session, ladies, we explored voice and video feedback, and we looked at, you know, the whole notion of what voice and video feedback can do in our teaching and learning environment. We looked at some best practices, and we looked at some strategies which we can use to ensure that we marry feedback with the voice and video components. We looked at we converted a written feedback, making it more useful to the student. And we also crafted a script which would be appropriate for video or audio. And then we went into the virtual learning environment, where we got a chance to do a little bit of recording, and we could see it from teacher view as well as student view. We were able to think about different ways that we could use this particular feature. And at the end of it, we wrapped up with some key takeaways. I want to say thank you very much for coming. And at this point, I am opening the floor for any final comments about this particular tool. I tend not to call them tools because they're built-in features in Moodle, but about this particular tool and how you can use it. Of course, I want to tell you that Moodle is not the only interface that does this. We can have voice recorders from, you know, done externally and import them, but because there is this built-in feature in the formatting aspect of the editor, I thought it would be interesting to share this with us. So any comments, any last words on the potential of this tool for use?
I'm adjusting my assignments right now to include this.
That is great news. Wonderful. And let us know how it goes. Sometimes we do these sessions and we're not sure what happens after the session. So yes, you do an evaluation and you talk about the workshop, but I'm interested in what happens after. Which one of the tools did you use? How did you use it? How did the student respond? Where do you go from here? So if you share with us, Dr. Spencer, what comes out of it in the long run.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I mean, it warms my heart to hear that you're making the adjustment as we speak. Anybody else?
Well, once I have access to the course and I've looked at it, I will decide where, but I definitely would want to include voice and because I think I have a very nice voice and I would want my students to hear my voice. That's the beauty that my face-to-face students have that the online ones won't have. So I will definitely try to incorporate it in, but it will be a new space to me. So I kind of just need to orient myself to it a little bit. Yes.
Yes. And I know that this is going to be something that Melissa will look at, especially since she's going to be teaching a fully online course.
Yes, this is Melissa speaking.
Oh, that was Melissa. I thought it was Rhonda. My apologies. My apologies.
Oh, I sound like Rhonda.
At some points, yes.
Yes,
Yes, you do.
So that's definitely I would want to incorporate it, and I will probably try to send you some stuff during the term. I actually need to email you on another matter. May I do so?
Yes, ma'am, please.
Sure, thanks.
All right. Miss Barclay has posted the evaluation. So we appreciate the feedback that you give us based on what it is we do. We want to know how we can improve or what other areas you want to, you want us to engage with you on. And so we have the evaluation that we ask you please to complete so that we can have a feel of where we are. Besides, it helps us to know what kind of feedback we get from facilitators who come and participate in the session. So we invite you please to respond to that. All right. Yes.
If I may say
Nikisha.
something real quick.
Yes, ma'am, please.
From where I sit, having been a student and looking to be a student again, I think the platform builds that personal touch to lecturers and students. So I do hope they incorporate it because I feel like if I was a student, I would find it very interesting and fun to hear my lecturer's voice as well as to, see her face in a different light and being able to have that personal connection outside of the class. And as one lecturer pointed out that, giving a feedback on something that was submitted and being able to change it, that sort of engagement would be very good for the students.
Yes, indeed. And then particularly, I mean, when you have the face-to-face and you use the online as the complement, that helps big time when you hear and you can see. But when you have the online where there is no connection at all with the teacher, maybe one or two, especially based on how the course is set up. So if you only have one or two synchronous sessions, students starve for this kind of connection. So it is something worth looking into. Oh, I mean, it may mean a little more time for you as a facilitator, but as with everything else, things get easier and easier and easier. All right. And yes, Dr. Spencer, I remember the feedback. I just need a little time because running against, but you definitely will be getting that soon. Somebody was saying something. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It's me, Rhonda. Two things. Will we be getting the recordings for this?
Yes, ma'am.
And the one for the digital portfolio as well?
Yes, but for the digital portfolio, the reason you haven't gotten that one as yet, and I think we probably need to send it off, Miss Barclay. I'm working on tweaking the section about analyzing the artifacts,
No
what do you
problem. I
use?
just wanted to know. That's
Yes.
fine. I just wanted to know that I didn't miss it. But also I wanted to say really that for the two, because I'm actually on vacation leave, and I sort of said, should I really take up my leave to do this? But I must say, Michelle, as I've done with all your courses, it was time more than just well spent. And I think that's an understatement. And I'm a doctor, so I don't have many nice literary words and stuff to say to you. But this was time well spent. And it's, you learn something, and it's always good to learn something new. But as Nikisha said, she's already thinking, and I've already thought about where I'm going to do this, and I have to do it by Sunday. So that is important. And I've always found your courses to be what you would call authentic.
Thank you so
It's
much.
not just, oh, well, this is what we do, but you actually show us that this is how it can be done in real time. And I've appreciated that approach, because it keeps us, I guess, accountable to ourselves. So thank you very much. I really thoroughly enjoyed it, and I have learned, which is important.
Thank you ever so much, Rhonda. That means
Yeah.
so much. Thank you. All right, so ladies, if there are no other comments, please remember to do the evaluation. And thank you very much for coming. Thank you, Miss Barclay, for being such a gracious assistant as usual. And have a good one. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Yes, thank you, and you too.
You too, Michelle.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye, everyone.
Oh, will we be getting a recording though, Mrs. Stewart-McKoy?
Yes, you'll get a recording.
Okay. And also I was wondering, because I'm not a faculty member, how will it apply to me, I guess, because I'm a student of the UMO now. I mean, it's good to know how the Moodle works, as it does there. I didn't even realize I was using Moodle, but it's good to know, that we've upgraded, and I noticed AI companion. So you guys are well into this thing now. AI.
We have to keep abreast. I mean, one of the things that we find as we go through is that the technology, as it emerges, something that stays, it evolves. And so we heard about AI. We realized that so many of the different platforms or tools have an AI component. And I think it in order to move away from the dark ages as it relates to our thoughts, we need to begin to engage it so that we can understand it a little better. We can better guide those who want to use it. So we try our best to try and keep abreast of what's happening, and we try to do so responsibly. So
Good.
yes.
All right. Yes,
All
thank
right.
you so much.
So to answer the question, how can you apply all of this? You have an advantage if your teacher isn't using that aspect. So you have that advantage of saying, oh, I attended this session. This was one of the things that went in. You can respond to some of your assignments.
That means,
So have a discussion with your facilitators. You say, this is something that I learned. I loved it. I want to explore a little bit more. This is how I learned how to do this thing. Show your facilitators. I'm sure they wouldn't be, they would be very open to finding out other ways that they can engage with you as students.
so would you mind if I, just in case, like you said, I have the opportunity to get the recording, if I could share it with one or two of my facilitators?
Oh, please. For me,
Okay.
education and knowledge is something that should be free and should be shareable. So yes, please. This is a settle session. Settle caters to facilitators and inevitably to students. So if you want to share this with your facilitators, please go ahead.
Okay, then. All right. Thank you so much.
You're
All right,
welcome.
Mrs. Stewart-McKoy, take care.
You too. Have a good one.
Oh, what do you teach?
I train faculty on how to use the technology, and I teach in the certificate for university teaching and learning. So that's the program that the university advises that teachers who don't have teacher training or current training should do. So that's what I do here.
CETL stands for what?
Center for Excellence in Teaching and
Learning.
Yes.
And that's what you do. Okay.
Yes.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good one.
Yes, same to you. Bye-bye.
Thanks.